Right, before we get started, we need to talk about what we mean by concept map. So concept maps are hierarchical diagrams, such as this one. The concepts are represented as nodes or points on this diagram, and the points are connected with lines called edges. Sometimes these edges are directional, as shown here, and the way you read it is we would read this one as going, ideas or concepts are arranged hierarchically. That means in a top to bottom fashion, top to bottom and then left to right normally, hierarchically, with edges explaining relationships. So you have your concepts in nodes, and edges explain the relationship between those nodes, or how those things relate to each other. So we're going to begin, and this is the concept map for this first lesson, which is the overview of computer systems and all hardware and software. Overview. So computer systems are classed as either general purpose or as embedded systems. I know this looks like a lot, but just stay with it. It actually is quite manageable. You just need to understand how to read the diagram, and it will make sense, and I hope they will make all this stuff much easier to learn than a whole bunch of writing in a table. So computer systems are electrical or electronic systems that accept data as input, and they perform an action such as processing their data and then outputting their data, or maybe they store their data for later retrieval. What is output is called information, which is the term we use for processed data. These electronic computer systems, which are also information systems by the way, are built on hardware and software. Hardware is controlled by the software, or we say that the software controls the hardware. And we've seen that in our von Neumann computer model, that the CPU, instead of being hardwired, it follows the program instructions in main memory. The instructions are what are known as the software. The hardware is the actual physical device, that the electronics that carries out and runs the instructions. So hardware is controlled by software, and the software controls the hardware. Hardware is physical, and it can be classified as an input-output device, an I/O device, or as a processor, or as memory, or as storage. I/O devices are examples of which are keyboards and screens. The example of input and output devices are keyboards and screens. Examples of processors would be the CPU, the central processing unit, or the GPU, the graphics processing unit. Examples of memory are RAM, random access memory, and ROM. Whereas examples of storage are things like the hard disk drive, the solid state drive, the SSD, and CD or DVD. Notice the symbols to the right over here. The HDD, hard disk drive, is magnetic, hence the little magnet. SSDs are what are known as flash storage, flash memory, and CD or DVD, notice the little laser there, that's symbol for a laser, they are optical in nature. Finally, we move on to software. Software is logical. It is a program or application, or is also called, or it is the program or applications, or the instructions that controls the hardware, that tells the hardware what to do. This software is classified as being either system software or application software. Examples of system software are the OS, the operating system, such as Windows, macOS, Android, iOS. Device drivers, these are programs you need for your hardware to talk to the operating system. as well as software authoring programs, such as Python. These are programs used to create other or new software. Application software, on the other hand, is driven by users. And these include things such as browsers, which allows us to search the internet, word processors, which allows us to type up documents, or games, play games for enjoyment. These are all application software. Application software's purpose is to provide the user with a useful tool that allows them to fulfill some function, like search the internet, type up a document, or play a game to have fun. System software's purpose is to make sure that the computer system works and functions correctly. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is lesson 1. Take the time to learn this diagram, understand the relationship between things. So you need to know that hardware is physical, that it's controlled by software, that the hardware devices can be classified in 4 ways, and each of these various classifications means that it has a slightly different function and a slightly different role. And that's the subject of the remainder of the first part of this course, is drilling down into what do we mean by the processor, what do we mean by memory, what do we mean by these different storage devices, and we'll have a brief look at the operating system in terms of its functionality, but having a fairly detailed look at something called the user interface. And that, as I said, is this first lesson and the overview of the theoretical part of computer systems.